Okay, before I roll this a little further, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause this. My channel, what I do is I comment, and the reasons I feel I need to do my YouTubes is to create context based on an experience that I've had making paintings, being an artist, being a painter, a sculptor, painter. And it's important that people that have had experience create a context. Like anything, we look at the world and we try to make sense of it. And within my own field of making paintings, I've developed a certain expertise, an understanding, something that may actually make sense to somebody other than myself if I express my major focus is on making paintings, not on explaining paintings or explaining anything in words. I'm not a writer. I'm not Mark Twain. But I want to create a context. I'm going to run this a little bit. And even Luke Rudkowski from We Are Change picked up on this, the culture of death. She is a prime example, Marina Abramovic, spirit cooking in this particular video. And I'm picking it up because Luke Rudkowski even commented on this, how disgusted he was by the degeneracy that is being unfolded in front of us. What I call the culture of death has its own progenitors, and I want to create some context within the scope of my own experience, and we that understand the serious fight that we're in terms of survival now, with Fukushima unleashing its deadly radiation every day for over 5 years now, 5.5 years. And I'm just going to run this, and I want you to see how degenerate, how it has deteriorated this thing that we call art. Now, this has nothing to do with art. This has to do with spectacle. I suppose there's a version of this as theater. You could assume this as theater. It's kind of like Caligula or Nero going to their favorite show. But I'll just run this a little bit. You can see she's writing on the wall with blood and guts, animal guts, maybe even human blood, I don't know. And it's called Spirit Cooking. Now, who the hell would want to have a breakfast of champions like this, mixing fresh milk with fresh sperm? You can see where I'm getting here, what I've been commenting about, what I've been saying in terms of the culture of death, the people that have a romance with the grim reaper. This Abramovic has a romance with the grim reaper. And now here's the context I'm going to try and create now for people who don't understand what it means to make art. She is literally concretizing mythology. What she's attempting to do, she's trying to bridge the gap between imagination and reality with her work. This is quite devious. The subterfuge in this is quite extraordinary. It's not just merely an expression. And I really don't have any problem with people exploring. But what I do have a problem with is when it's being used in order to infiltrate our psyches in a way that concretizes the destruction, that actually makes a case for why we need to demand our own extinction. This is what this is about. I'm going to pause this now, and I'll go. You've seen it. You don't want to see any more of this. This is done with blood and guts. Yeah, I'm going to switch now to the video. And what I want to say about this Abramovic person, Abramovic, yeah, that my commentary, my thoughts, my opinions, my ideas on YouTube have been an attempt to create a context through my own experience. And the idea that Fukushima has happened, has occurred, is creating one of the most devastating events, if not the most devastating event since the meteor hit our planet 60-some million years ago. If that is to be true, who knows, but let's say it is. Fukushima and the nuclear criminal syndicate who have taken over culture, civilization, everything, taken over in the sense that we have nothing else to say. They run the show. And they run the show from the point of view that if you can destroy everything, you run the show. That's why do you think people are so terrified of nuclear weapons? Because whoever has the nuclear weapons runs the show. So I'm attempting to create context in my commentary, in my ideas, with my thoughts. The people I defend, the vulnerable, the children, people who stand up for the vulnerable, the children, for all of life. And I want to create a context why I think this is happening, how this can happen. And this little video you saw before is from the art side of things. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons we are traveling down this very nasty road now. This nasty road of extinction, what appears to be, what has been admitted by science. We're in an extinction level event, the sixth extinction event that has occurred, not a level event, sixth extinction event on this planet, which is being promoted and endorsed and embraced by the nuclear syndicate, that with their nuclear pollution on this planet. And the context that I'm going to create through my experience as an artist is we work with symbols. Symbols are actually a liberating thing in that it allows us to recognize something about ourselves, even to some extent ritual. And I'm not big on ritual. I like tradition, but I'm not big on ritual. And I like tradition if it makes sense, if it helps people into their own spirit selves, being, person, psyche. I love that. I love that feeling of getting together and feeling a community through a tradition, let's say, but not ritual necessarily, because ritual can actually, like this Abramovic is doing, can actually lead us into what I say is concretizing the mythology. It's kind of like separating. A symbol separates us from the deed. In other words, by symbolizing something, I don't need to do it. I resolve it within myself. Like I have said, my mascot for Fukushima is Fukushima. I have created a mascot, the archetypal character Shiva in the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, this character, this Vishnu or Krishna in an iteration called Shiva that is considered to be the destroyer of worlds. Shiva says, now I've become death, destroyer of worlds, which is, if you change the letter of Shiva or Fukushima, the M becomes a V, it's Fukushiva. I think it is concretizing mythology. And this is what frightens me on a certain level. Being a painter, being an artist, I delve into areas of myself that I do not necessarily want to realize in the real world. And people might say that this Abramovic is just acting out something that is innate in part of us. It's an ugly, dark side of us, and let's have a look at it. Yes, yeah, fine, let's have a look at it. But here's the crux for me. It becomes ritualized. It becomes something of a ritual that actually could turn into the real world. The way now we have Fukushima, what we have to deal with is a monumental destructive force unleashed on this planet because we're concretizing the mythology that this woman is actually endorsing in her, what she calls art. And it's not art. It's not art. It's a kind of theater, I suppose. And you say, well, you know, you say it's not art. Somebody else says it's art. The Tate Museum thinks it's art. The Tate is really big in London. The Tate Modern embraces this woman, has interviews, has discussions, puts her sticks and feathers and blood and guts on the floor and exalts this woman as some magnificent artist. No, she's not an artist. She is concretizing mythology. And it's got nothing to do with art, because art deals with symbols that are within, that are contained, not externalized. And now we have externalized. Art is now all externalized. It's people going batshit crazy. There are a bunch of rats running around trying to scare everybody out of their skulls, and it's not working, by the way. People go to museums, they stand perplexed in front of these gigantic, enormous constructions. They haven't got a clue what the hell they're looking at. They're scratching themselves. And I think it's time to act like the cornered rats, the people that are still with a conscience, people that have an ability to distinguish when things are being concretized, mythologies are being concretized. How can I explain this? It's actually like what I have said is a romance with the Grim Reaper. We look at this stuff and we say, this is dark, this is evil. It has nothing to do with being free to express oneself. Yes, let her go and express oneself, but don't hold it up as though it's the end all and be all. The beauty of this planet that is art, that which is the highest part of ourselves, becomes exalted through the institutions we call museums, and then they embrace these people, and they do not give the other side. They don't put my work up, or the artists like myself are no longer represented in museums. It has been taken over, it has been hijacked. And the reason we have Fukushima is because we have allowed people that create what is considered to be culture or civilization to run away with this. And we've no longer left the symbols to the artists of conscience. It's a free-for-all now. And the younger ones coming along in the art schools are being so influenced by this depravity, this degenerate form of expression. And they're being made to feel that they need to demand their own demise. We need to demand our own extinction. This work compels a person to demand their own demise. Now you notice they never volunteer themselves with their blood and guts crap. They never volunteer themselves like the Aleister Crowleys and the Russells and the George Bernard Shaw with their high-minded eugenics attitude of all useless eaters. Well, why don't you volunteer and extinct yourself? I am attached to life and all life on this planet, and the beauty that has been, the mystery that is this beauty all around us. And it's ordinarily I wouldn't say, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, or it's not art. Who am I to say what is and isn't art? Yes, we have the ability to express ourselves. And she's not literally, as far as I know anyway, she's not sacrificing any children or animals on the altar, although I don't know. I wouldn't put it past her. The way, they have to escalate their level of expression all the time, so they can do whatever the hell they want, but they're being embraced. They're being embraced by a very small group of people that actually influence the direction that museums are going into with enormous amounts of money. The people with money are actually supporting this kind of work. And they may go through their own hardships or whatever. This Abramovic has gone through her own hardships, whatever, yes. But ultimately, they become embraced for concretizing mythologies. And what are they concretizing? Not the best part of us. It's always the nastiest, ugliest part of us. And I want no part of it. And art nourishes. Art is something that nourishes. And there is a degree, if you think about Vincent being a rebel and a radical in terms of the way people see art history, I suppose you could say, yes, there is a kind of shit disturbing and a muckraking going on, but within the confines of something that is actually healthy and workable for our psyches. And if you don't get it, I can't explain it. If you don't get that part of us that is actually the good part of us, what it means for our parents to have nurtured us and brought us along, what is it that makes us want to be alive? What is it that we're given that makes us want to be alive? And that is the nature of art.